John Telford.
Now, stay tuned for our half-hour John Telford Show, coming to you live Saturday mornings at 9:30 a.m. and Monday evening at 6:30 on tape on WCHB AM 1340. Dr. John Telford is a former Detroit Public Schools superintendent, former world-class athlete and conqueror of Olympic champions, a championship track coach, poet, newspaper columnist, longtime civil rights crusader, and the author of 6 Detroit-oriented books: The Poet Emperor of Earth, What Old Men Know, Creative Insubordination, The Will Robinson Story, The Poetic Prancings of Mad John, and his explosive autobiography, A Life on the Run. All of his books are available at Barnes & Noble or on Amazon.com or by calling 313-460-8272. That's 313-460-8272. Dr. John Telford has been called a legend and also a lightning rod for controversy, a recipient of the City Council's Spirit of Detroit Award and the Joe Louis Foundation's Spirit of the Champ Award. He was named Wayne State's Alumnus of the Year in 2001, and a Detroit track was named for him. His website is www.alifeontherun.com. That's www.alifeontherun.com. His email is drjohntelfordedd@aol.com. That's drjohntelfordedd@aol.com. If you're listening on a Saturday, you can call into the show now at 313-837-1340. That's 313-837-1340. Now, without further ado, WCHB 1340 proudly presents that crusading old native Detroiter, Detroit's very own Dr. John Telford.
Welcome to the all-new 1340 AM WCHB, Detroit's Gospel Station, and the John Telford Show. I have in the studio today 2 fellow members of the National Action Network, one of whom is a police commissioner, Willie Burton, and the other is Scotty Boman. And I'm going to be interviewing these 2 gentlemen on some police-related issues a little bit later in the program. You know, I have a vision in my heart and in my spirit and my soul that all the children of Detroit will never have to pay the toll of poverty and ravaged mind, or end up dead or on the dole, but will, through education, find their life-fulfilling future goal. You know, that's one of my poems. I'm the poet in residence now for the Detroit Public Schools, one of my many roles with that school district over the past 60 years. And as we embark upon 2020, I reflect upon 2019, which we're also going to reflect on with Willie Burton when we talk to him. But I reflect upon 2019, wherein our fledgling governor inadvisedly considered closing the predominantly African-American populated Benton Harbor schools. Following that prospective closing, which would play right into the hands of Education Secretary Betsy DeVos's nationwide chartering scheme, other similarly populated districts like Ecorse, River Rouge, Pontiac, Dearborn Heights, Robichaud, and even Oak Park and Southfield wouldn't be far behind. Saginaw, Buena Vista, and Highland Park, and Inkster are gone already. And Detroit would be gone had it not been for the pushback efforts of schools activist Helen Moore, former state representative and then DPS board president Lamar Lemons, the Clarion Sam Riddle on another radio station, and me, serving as the pro bono superintendent commencing in the spring of 2012. With the help of administrative volunteers I'd recruited to countermand the unwarranted state-imposed emergency financial mismanagement. My intrepid pro bono staff featured now state representative and prospective Detroit mayoral candidate Sherry Gay Danyogo as my deputy, Claude Tiller and Robert Thomas as ombudsman, and others, ensuring that all students in the early grades learn to read competently will close our state's skills gap, which is limiting opportunity in all of the competitive fields, really. It's limiting opportunity for far too many Michigan children, particularly for those in Detroit, our nation's poorest and blackest city. This crucial goal is what my dedicated DPS pro bono staff and duly elected school board had undertaken. But in 2013, the legislature, the Republican legislature, Republican-dominated legislature, reinstated the emergency manager law, which shut us down abruptly after Michiganians had voted overwhelmingly in every county to rescind that educationally counterproductive law. So let me ask this question. Let me pose this question to you. If it were your children in the Benton Harbor schools or another similarly endangered minority populated district, would you sit and patiently wait for a fix to the dysfunctional problems swirling around your children? I think not. Are we going to allay the fundamental financial and structural inequities in every struggling public school in Michigan, or are we going to continue to look the other way? How our leaders address the educational and moral crisis in Benton Harbor, an urbanized district whose 1,800 students are 92% black and 81% economically disadvantaged, will impact us all. The many thousands of young men and women we fail to educate won't simply vanish. They'll be coming to your place of business as a potential customer or employee, or perhaps with a more sinister intent. It's our righteous responsibility, as well as being in our mutual best interest, to confront the K through 12 educational crisis all throughout our state. You know, we bemoan the fact that we have a brain drain, that we educate students here who then depart for more welcomingly lucrative environs. Now is the time for us to collaborate across municipal boundaries and political parties and school districts to afford equitable resources and apply best instructional practices to every traditional public school, urban, suburban, and rural, toward the progressive prosperity of all of our state of Michigan. One more announcement before I get to Police Commissioner Burton and Mr. Boman. On January the 18th, that's Saturday, January the 18th, we are going to be celebrating the passing of Arnold Nevels, that great Kettering basketball coach of many years. He also coached at Pershing, boys and girls, and his coming home party is going to be at the new Prospect Baptist Church, 6330. Where is that? 63, New Prospect Baptist Church. Anybody know where that is? I didn't write it down. Anyway, it's Arnold Nevels. You can find it out. New Prospect Baptist Church. We lost another one of our great ones. This past year, couple of years, we've lost the great Aaron Gordon, my old teammates Jerry Catalina and Cliff Hatcher. We lost We lost Billy Smith, another teammate of mine. We lost Johnny Klein, the great basketball player. We lost Damon Keith. We lost Aretha Franklin. We lost John Conyers. We lost Elijah Cummings. We lost John McCain. We're worrying now about the health of the great John Lewis, Representative John Lewis. But we've got to prevail. We've got to prevail. And we got to get this Trump out of office, by hook or by crook, before he absolutely destroys the country. And I wasn't going to go into all my long diatribes against him today because I have two gentlemen in the studio who have some very important questions for me to answer, or rather for me to ask. And one of them is, welcome to the show, Willie Burton and Scotty Boman.
Thank you.
And I'm very happy to have you gentlemen here. It's taken us a while to get you here. I know you have to go to a family funeral right after the show, Willie, and I'm sorry to hear that you lost your aunt.
Thank you.
How do you feel about public safety and the Board of Police Commissioners in Detroit back in the year 2019? Talk about that a little bit.
Well, I think the city of Detroit has to invest heavily in public safety in order to keep citizens safe. For time and time again, Detroiters just don't feel safe in America's blackest and poorest and dangerous city. 2019, was a year where the board of police commissioners could have got a lot accomplished, but they didn't. And that's because they didn't listen to the people. One of those things were...
Aren't they elected? I mean, isn't it the people that they're supposed to be listening to? That you were elected, right, Willie?
Absolutely. There are 7 districts. 7 commissioners are elected, and then 4 are appointed. But I have never seen a board resemble the way the Detroit Board of Police Commissioners resemble. Here it is. The mayor gets to appoint 4 to the board, according to the charter. So I cannot really go against the charter. But what I can say is this, is that he also gets to appoint to the vacancy. So the mayor has a 2/3 majority vote on the Board of Police Commissioners with his appointees alone. I mean, to me, it's preposterous. It's something that should not happen. And usually when it's time for us to make important decisions, that 2/3 majority vote is always going to be in the hands of, those, rubber stamps.
Yeah, well, we got to get away with rubber stamping, state level, city level, national level. I mean, this is what's happening right now, and it's very scary. Scotty Boman, tell me a little bit about you and about your interest in the police commission.
Well, I got a group I started after being a candidate myself for police commission back in 2017, and the group I started was called Detroit Residents Advancing Civilian Oversight, DRACO for short. And our role initially was to educate people about what the Board of Police Commissioners was, that it was oversight and not just a part of the Detroit Police Department. In the course of doing that, we also found how little the board as a whole often actually did real oversight, and present company not included. Willie Burton is one of the good ones here.
Yeah, I'm well aware of what Willie did.
Yeah.
I mean, Willie stood up for the anti-facial recognition because it's been found scientifically that facial recognition discriminates against darker complexioned people. And despite Willie's protest, and they hauled him out, as I understand it, they hauled him out of the commission meeting for protesting. The commission rubber stamped it and put it in anyway.
Well, I wasn't protesting, but I advocated loudly for the voices of Detroit. For majority Detroit. What happens when it's technology misidentify a person of color, that doesn't have the resources for a good legal defense. It criminalizes those that live in poverty. 60% of women with children in the city of Detroit wake up every day in poverty. We, as America's blackest and poorest city, cannot afford to misidentify a single person. Number one, we have not had a recommendation to come before the body of, the Board of Police Commissioners regarding, in the beginning, regarding facial recognition, nor did we have any, many of us was not aware that the Detroit Police Department was using facial recognition in any capacity. We were not aware.
Yeah,
so they secure funding, implemented a program, used it for nearly 2 years, and then come back and say, we want the Police Board of Commissioners to approve this.
Yeah, I'm aware of that. And I wrote a letter protesting that, and I sent it to the mayor, and I sent it to the police chief, both of whom have been on this show, by the way. I want to talk more about your stance on the facial recognition question, Willie, right after these commercials from Gloria Cunningham on the John Telford Show.
Well, good, great God's morning to all you 1340 listeners. The Dr. John Telford Show is brought to you by the Detroit Native Sun newspaper, where you can find Dr. Telford's Telescope column and sometime my column as well. Pick up a free copy wherever you go and wherever you see them. Some are at Burt's Warehouse in the Eastern Market District. Today is that day. And others are at Greenfield Market on Greenfield and Puritan. By these boutique for ladies in the River House, located at 8900 East Jefferson, where Telford also resides, by writing it right for you. Call them up at 341-2398. They're a professional writing service that will help you right away. By Source Booksellers at 4240 Cass Avenue, call them at 832-1155. By Barnes & Noble and Amazon.com, just simply type in Dr. John Telford to be connected to one or all of his great books. Some of the titles are Just a Few, Poetic Prancings by Mad John.
Of Mad John.
Of Mad John, okay. And you can get them for scholars or those that are aiming to be scholars. Now back to Dr. John Telford, his wonderful guest, and his fabulous show.
And thank you, Gloria. And the Poetic Prancings of Mad John, I use the adjective mad in that title, not to indicate that I'm crazy, but that sometimes I get very angry about things. And one of the things I get angry about is what's happening with this Detroit Board of Police Commissioners, who have approved a process that is discriminatory toward the citizens of Detroit, who are 85% African American, and we have Scotty Boman and Police Commissioner Willie Burton in the studio today to address this. Willie, do you expect anything to change in the year 2020 that we're embarking on, and if so, in what way can those changes be affected?
Transparency. I think the governor, Gretchen Whitmer, and also AG Attorney Dana Nessel, between one of them, I want to say maybe Attorney General Dana Nessel, said something along the lines that Michigan ranks dead last in transparency. And I totally agree, because I see, the lack of transparency with the Detroit Board of Police Commissioners. I mean, here, this body, have these secret meetings, which has been violating the Open Meetings Act. Citizens have not been included to attend subcommittee meetings, which they ought to. Board members don't know when these meetings are taking place or when they're being held, other than the chair and the vice chair.
The board members don't know when what meetings are taking place?
Subcommittee meetings. So what you have
of their own board.
Transparency is something that's been lacking on this body. And so the city inspector general And their findings comes out that the board has been violating the Open Meetings Act. So going forward in 2020, I expect the Board of Police Commissioners to be in compliance to the city charter, to be in compliance, to the Open Meetings Act, because transparency is key, and it's time that the board gets in line.
Well, we got a president of the United States that isn't in compliance with the United States Constitution. Article 1, Section 8, Paragraph 11, I think it is, gives Congress the sole power to declare war, and he's gone ahead and declared it on his own. So how can we expect the Board of Police Commissioners in the city of Detroit not to follow the example of the false president of the United States? How are you, Willie, personally going to get them to be more compliant with the law?
I'm going to continue to advocate and speak on behalf of the citizens that elected me in the city of Detroit. I'm going to continue to be vocal. I'm going to continue to stand up, and I'm going to continue to fight. Because in Detroit, we fight back. And the way we fight back is through group policies, organizing, always organizing. That's why I'm a proud member of the National Action Network.
I'm a lifetime member.
And, well, I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
Okay.
But I'm a member.
I don't have that much lifetime left. I'm 84, so it's easy for me to say I'm a lifetime member. And Scotty, I presume you are a member also.
Yes, I am.
Yeah. Well,
you also a track celebrity, track star.
Well, that was so long ago. I'm hobbling around on a cane most of the time now, but I can't even walk 100 meters sometimes.
Olympic runner, sprinter.
Yeah, I was beating the best, but that's so long ago I almost forgot about it. But I'm glad that some folks remember. But we've got to get you on the air again.
Sure.
I know that you're on Sam's show a lot. And, Sam and I work in conjunction. I've been on his show. He comes on my show. And sure. You really need to be on channels 2, 4, and 7. But it's going to be a cold day and where when that happens. Because, unfortunately, channels 2, 4, and 7, news, free press, even the Chronicle now, seem to be in collusion with the corporate crocodiles. And
well, it's an honor to be here today on your show, Dr. John Telford, on WCHB, Detroit Gospel Station, 1340 AM. I'm excited to be here today. I know I was supposed to have been here before. We had some situation.
It's been a comedy of errors and a tragedy too.
And now the loss of my aunt, so I'll be leaving here, going straight to the funeral, and just to ask our listeners today, just pray for our family. Pray for me, pray for my family, and we always praying for the sake of the city of Detroit citizens, and we got a lot of work to do here in 2020. Transparency is something that we looking to improve. Also, we looking to continue to have dialogue in our community about important issues that matters most to majority of Detroiters. And, facial recognition was something that the board could have voted down, but they ended up approving it. Something that,
I can't believe they did that. I mean, we've got the data that process is flawed when it comes to folks of darker complexion. So, how can they put that in place knowing that it doesn't work?
Exactly. So I was a no vote on it, and I'm going to continue to talk about the harms and the dangers of this technology. We saw in California, 26 lawmakers was misidentified with this technology. We're talking about lawmakers. That was August of 2019. Not to mention April of 2019, 18-year-old student in New York was misidentified.
I hate to say it,
wrongfully arrested with facial recognition.
It comes down to money. It always comes down to money. Follow the money. Somebody's making money off this that shouldn't be making money off of this until they correct that flaw. Scotty, I've got you on the air too, and I haven't asked you much about yourself. Give us some background.
Okay, so I was talking about the Detroit Residents Advancing Civilian Oversight, and one area where we early on noticed that they weren't exercising good oversight involved, because one thing is you're supposed to have citizen complaints addressed, and they're supposed to investigate those complaints and advocate on behalf of the citizens. Another part of that is that they have decision-making on discipline and firing and suspensions. Well, we had a case where in 2018 where Corporal Dwayne Jones beat this woman, Shelby Smith, at Receiving Hospital in the emergency room.
I heard about that.
She was, she was misbehaving, but she also was.
Well, you don't beat her down.
Exactly.
This is a woman, a policeman beating a woman.
She was completely undressed. She was there because they brought her there. She clearly was not armed. She was petite compared to Mr. Jones, who was punching her out. And the point is, this is not, the police should not be doing this to people, even if the people have problems. And there's other ways to handle people who have problems. This got on video. Unfortunately, someone in the hospital got a phone video of it and uploaded it to YouTube, and it became well known.
Thank goodness.
Yeah. And so it turned out that wasn't the only video. In the long run, there were also cameras present on the officers because of body cams, and also within the emergency room.
What happened to that officer? What kind of discipline?
Well, and that's where we're going with this.
Okay.
And last spring, he was found guilty of misdemeanor assault. A previous court had let him off on the misconduct charge, which would have been a felony. He was convicted, and he was sentenced to probation. And he remained employed by the Detroit Police Department, and their claim is, they're doing an internal investigation. Now, this man has a very short time to go until his retirement. It may be, I don't know.
He's still employed? He's still employed by the
It's going to be in less than a year, yes. I don't know how many months, but his retirement is not far away.
And he's going to collect a pension.
Right, that's what they're doing. They're sandbagging, they're delaying, they're stalling, so they can go ahead and do this, and they're claiming an internal investigation. And meanwhile, the newest development was on November 1st, he was granted an appeal. Now, this is probably the first time it's hit the airwaves, coming out of my mouth right now, that he got this appeal, because the case was well covered by the major press until recently. I think they just didn't know about it. They dropped the ball, whatever. But he has been granted an appeal, and what was supposed to happen was within 35 days after November 1st, he was supposed to get a Ginser hearing back at the 36th District Court regarding a new trial, and that never happened. So I don't know what's going on. The case is in limbo. He does have a probation hearing already previously scheduled on May 1st in the 36th District Court. And
we're running out of time, and this has been a superb show. I got to have you guys on again, but we're running out of time. You've been listening to Police Commissioner Willie Burton and Scotty Boman on the John Telford Show. I'm going to play this show again Monday night, 6:30 p.m. Thank you for listening.
You've been listening to the John Telford Show, coming to you live on Saturday mornings at 9:30 and Monday evenings at 6:30. That's Saturdays at 9:30 live and Mondays at 6:30 on tape. Contact Dr. Telford at 313-460-8272. That's 313-460-8272 to sponsor or appear on his show, or to get his best-selling books, which Huel Perkins, Jeffrey Feiger, Dennis Archer, and the Detroit Free Press have all called spellbinding and sensational. Also, it was the world-renowned Dr. Wayne Dyer who once wrote, "John Telford has a warrior's heart and a poet's soul." Read Dr. Telford's commentaries on the schools in the Detroit Native Sun and the Michigan Chronicle. And be sure to tune in again at 9:30 a.m. Saturdays or 6:30 p.m. Mondays to hear the John Telford Show on WCHB 1340, your community ministry station. Because you can never tell what the extremely outspoken Dr.